All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. It is John Gator coming to you live from Wellington, and did want to share a few things with you guys today. Looking forward to chatting with you. As always, did want to share just a few things and reminders. So first off, as always, I do only speak for myself, even though I am on the board of trustees for the town of Wellington. I do not speak for the town of Wellington. I also do not speak for the rest of the board of trustees. I speak only for myself. So I always do like to remind people of that. With that being said, do have a few things to share with you guys today. I'm going to be going over, we do have a board meeting coming up this coming Tuesday, so do want to share with you guys the agenda for that upcoming meeting. And we do have some things on there. I'd love for you guys to come out and make it, so hopefully you can. We'll get into a couple of things just from community conversations that have come up as well. With that, I did want to actually start with something that was not on my agenda but did come up yesterday and earlier today. So we actually did have a huge house fire happen in the town of Wellington that just happened yesterday afternoon, and we actually did have a family lose their home, and my prayers are with the family, and I hope that they are able to do well from this. What has been encouraging to me is just to see the way that the community has come around them, and just to see all the people that are working on getting donations and getting things together to support this family in their time of loss. And so I do want to highlight for you guys, this is on the Let's Talk Wellington Facebook page, but they have put together a GoFundMe to help support this family, as well as they are accepting donations, I believe, at the River of Life Church. I've heard of a couple of others. That's the only one that I'm sure of for sure, and that's with clothing and other things too, to help this family that lost everything in the fire. So I would encourage you guys. I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do to help support them as well. But we do have the opportunities to come alongside and support members of our community, and just continue from myself and my family to be praying for them, just that we'll be able to help together as a community to help them through this. I do also want to let people know that the Wellington Fire Protection District did put out a public service announcement in regards to kind of what happened. I know there were some concerns about the time that it took for them to get there. They were actually in the process of fighting another grass fire out north of town. So I know there's been a lot of concern about the time it took to arrive. And in this case, thankfully, we were able to have a relationship we have with Poudre Fire District, Poudre Fire Authority. It sounds like they were actually able to come up and help with this fire, and then the Wellington Fire Protection District was able to get there as quickly as they could once they had gotten the fire that they were working on north of town under control. So I just want to share that with you guys. That is on the Wellington Fire Protection District page. They do have their statement there explaining what happened, so you guys can read through that on your own. So I just want to make you guys aware of those sources of information, and just again ask that you keep this family in Wellington in your thoughts and prayers. It's always hard when it does hit close to home when it's one of our own, so we want to make sure that we're able to support them through this. So I did want to show it. Hi, Sherelle. Good to see you joining us today. Missed you at the CAC meeting a couple of days ago. Hope you and your family are doing well. So did want to start with that. And then from there, I do want to go ahead and get into talking about the upcoming board meeting. As always, if you do have questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat. I will have a portion at the end specifically for questions and answers, but if you do have questions in the course of the show, feel free to go ahead and just throw those in there. So just as a reminder, if you're ever wondering how you get to the agendas for our meetings, just go to our town on the Town of Wellington website, go over to government, and agendas and minutes is where you're going to want to go. And you'll see there's actually two there this time. And we do have the Planning Commission as well as the Board of Trustees. If you click on the arrow next to that, and then just click on either agenda or packet. The agenda will give you a brief rundown. The packet will actually allow you to see all of the detail that the trustees have to go through. So I always do recommend to people to go and pull up the actual packet so you can actually see some of the supporting documentation that goes into everything. So with that, let's hop into the packet for this coming board meeting. And if my thing would scroll a little faster, this would work much better. All right. So here we have our agenda for our upcoming meeting. It's going to be on the 14th of July. This will be a Zoom meeting again. We did attempt to have a mix between in-person and online with our meeting last board meeting of June, and there were a lot of challenges that came in with that. So for the time being, until we can figure out a better solution, we are going to be actually moving this back to an online capacity. And the main reason behind that is it's a lot easier for us to actually engage and have public comment. So I did want to start by sharing, I know one of the concerns that came up at the beginning of doing online meetings is there's actually a cap that we didn't know about with how many people could join the meeting. That has been addressed. To where that cap is significantly higher, to where we don't foresee there being an issue of people not being able to attend the meeting if they did want to bring concerns or anything like that to the board. So I would encourage you guys to join us on Zoom. That the beauty of this is you can do it from your phone, you can do it from your computer. It allows you to come in and either listen or see what's going on depending on how you are able to come in. But all of that information is right here on the agenda. So there's a link here that you can click, or if you want to call in, there's a phone number and then the meeting ID that you'll need to join. And this is our agenda. So we're going to have our call to order, pledge of allegiance, roll call, any amendments to the agenda, or any conflicts of interest. During community participation, I talked a little bit about this last week. This public comment here, this is your opportunity as members of the public to share any thoughts, concerns that you might have that you want to talk to the board about that may not be on our agenda to discuss. So if, for example, you wanted to bring up something that had to do with, I think of something, that's not on the agenda. Let's say you wanted to bring up something that had to do with construction and building new houses or zoning. That would be your opportunity to bring that up in the public comment section here. If you wanted to bring something up, for example, that had to do with the Old Town street repair, you would actually wait and there would be public comment under that item that you could talk about. So after the public comment, we will be having a presentation from Tyler Sexton, who's our interim finance director, and he will be discussing an update on the utility rates. I would highly encourage you guys to be present for that. You can actually see the presentation is attached to this, so you can look through that ahead of time. The board has been working with town staff. The prior board even started this process of looking into the utility rates because our water fund has actually been losing money for, if I'm correct, I'm trying to remember the exact number, but I believe since 2013. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's been since 2013. It's been an ongoing issue that the last board realized needed to be addressed, and started the process of having a consultant come in and help us figure out what do we need to do and how do we address the problem. And then that was presented in March, and then that has been brought, the current board has gone back and forth on that, I think, one time in a work session and two different times during actual regular board meetings. We've worked through and gone back and forth with staff on the utility rates and trying to get some things sorted out on that. So you can see Tyler's presentation with some ideas of how we can address that. So I would highly recommend again that you guys take the time to read through that. Please come with questions. There is a plan, and I will be definitely addressing this, of continuing to make sure that we have good public engagement, and as we're working through coming to a final decision on what this is going to look like. So to be clear, the board is not making a final decision on this. This is something we are approaching the need to make a final decision, but we're still a little ways out from that. And I would ask you, please make sure that you're giving the board your feedback and letting us know that your thoughts, so that we can take those into account as we're trying to make a good decision for the town. So that's there in the presentations. Then we're going to go into the consent agenda, and we actually do have something on the consent agenda this time, and that's just a resolution to extend the approval of the conditional annexation for Country Lane Acres. And so the difference between regular agenda and consent agenda is the consent agenda is something that it's not covered, there's not public comment on. It's just something that, as long as no one on the board, and to be clear on this, or in the public takes issue with, then the board just votes to approve whatever's on the consent agenda. So I want to be something very clear, is that if any member of the board or of the public would prefer there to actually be discussion on an item, all they have to do is ask that something be removed from the consent agenda. And this applies to both members of the board as well as the public. So if you as a member of the public say, no, this is something that I would like to make comment on, then you have the opportunity to ask that that be removed from the consent agenda. So this is something I actually just learned recently. I found out that all that had to happen was just a question had to be asked. So, but we are going to be just a resolution to extend the approval timeframe for conditional annexation. And the understanding I have is that's just due to COVID, things have not been able to process as quickly as they normally would have. And so we're just extending the deadline on that. Then we move from the consent agenda into the action items. And we do see the Old Town street repair, and there's going to be a presentation from Vince Gentry, and Bob Gowing, who's our Public Works Director, and discussing the plan that we have for Old Town street repair, and then asking the board to actually go through and approve those contracts with these contractors to come in and do concrete, asphalt, and other areas. So that's going to be addressing multiple areas throughout Old Town, but addressing a lot of these concerns that people have had about what's going on with the roads and when we're working on this. This is something that we're continually doing. Sherelle asks, is this an annexation to continue building more homes? I am not sure, Sherelle. This is actually something that was approved by the Board of Trustees back in February, I believe. So this is before I was on the board, and I do not remember the specifics of this Country Lane Acres, and so that's something that I am going to be looking into a little more. But the thing with that is it's something that was already approved by the board. So I don't know exactly what it was for. I do know that it was approved by the board previously, and because of COVID and closures and things like that, they haven't finalized everything, so there's a need to extend that. So I still have to get a little more information on that, because that wasn't something that I approved in the first place, just to make sure that I have a full understanding before I say whether or not there are any concerns that I have with that. So, but that's a great question. So to answer, short answer is I don't know if it has to do with more building. But I will be working on finding out exactly what's entailed, because in the packet there's just a note on what it is, because the board's not being asked to reapprove it, they're just being asked to give it an extension. So the second is a resolution for the Natalie asked, does it include Old Town street drainage system? I will have to look. I know, but just real quick while I'm on my way down, because Natalie has a good question. This is the rate study, so you can see here what's kind of included. The utility rate recap, 2020 fourth quarter rate increases, 4 scenarios. There are 4 different scenarios we're looking at with potential prices for water, as well as pros and cons from each of those, and then a recommended communications timeline. All of that is in here to give you guys an idea of what is being proposed right now. So I would highly recommend take time, look into what is here, and understand what that is, because again, we want to hear your questions, we want to hear your thoughts, and so it's really helpful if you understand what we're looking at. So this is for the Country Lane annexation, so it's really just these 2 items here, and then the resolution. So let's see, concrete repair, asphalt repair, fire hydrant, and then for street repair projects. So to short answer, Natalie, I do not know if this addresses street drainage. From the little that I understand, there has been a lot of concerns with drainage, and there's a lot that has to do with that. I'm just looking through here. I haven't read through all of the proposals yet, so I don't know the 100% answer to that. It looks like they're mostly, this is dealing with the fire hydrants. So it does not speak directly to whether this, on here at least, whether it is going to be dealing with the drainage. My short answer would be I don't think it's going to significantly address stormwater drainage, because that would probably be part of our stormwater plan and work we do on that. But that being said, that's a very good question, and I would highly recommend that would be a great question to bring to the board meeting on Tuesday, and to ask if this would address some of those 3 things. Obviously, I still have today and tomorrow and Tuesday to continue going through the board packet and fully understand what all these are, so that I can make an informed decision when I'm voting. But it is something that, again, that is an example of a perfect question to ask, is what Natalie asked, is will this address some of the street drainage? I think that's a fantastic question. So Sherelle asked a question, is it possible to request a delay on building more until water becomes more easily processed and available? That is a wonderful question that I wish I had the answer for you, Sherelle. We're in a very interesting situation. I touched on this a little bit last week when I walked through the budget with people and explaining kind of where a lot of our income for the town comes from right now. And we're kind of in a unique situation right now where we aren't getting a ton of income from sales tax or property tax. A large majority of our revenue for the town of Wellington to handle things in the town does come from building. And so there's that. The good news is that we're getting more in sales tax, which is nice. The challenge is trying to find that balance, and I don't know what that balance is. And I know that the good thing is we have our staff and our board. We had our board retreat here about, I want to say it was almost a month ago now, where we sat down and we spent 2 days, 2 days straight for most. I think we were there for a total of 12 to 16 hours, something like that, over the 2 days, working through kind of what does this look like, what is the plan, and then kind of giving direction to town staff so that they can help work out what does this look like and how can we find that right balance, because that's something that I understand as citizens. I've heard that loud and clear is very, very concerned about where is that, what's the balance and how are we getting capacity. And I can guarantee for you that your board and staff are incredibly aware of that, and we're trying to find that balance. And really the whole issue is, where do we find that balance point? Because it's not something where we can just pull the plug and say nothing. But at the same time, we are also we're very aware of what's going on as far as utilities. And the challenge is this is something that ideally would have been addressed from our water and wastewater and storm drainage, that this ideally would have been started maybe 10 years ago. The challenge is that this process was really started seriously, I would say 2 to 3 years ago, by the prior board and prior town administrator. And there were some challenges that we ran into with engineering companies that have caused this to drag on. The good news is ideally we've gotten a lot of those addressed. It looks like we have a good path forward. We have the loan that is needed to build the water treatment plant, and we're just trying to get the engineering and everything finalized so that we can start construction on that. And we have recently had some updates on that have come before the board on where we are in that. I think our last update on that came in end of April or beginning of May. My guess is we'll have another one coming soon as to where we stand on that. But it is something we are very aware of, that balance between continual building, which is funding the town, and that trying to keep up with infrastructure. So it's something we are very aware of, and we are working to try and find that balance and how can we get that in a better place. Again, as I've mentioned this a few times, ideally things would have been done better 10 years ago, but we're not 10 years ago, we're here now. And so the good news is I'm very glad to hear that our current board and our current staff have not been looking at things and saying, oh, well, it's the fault of people 10 years ago. Just saying, you know what, we are where we are today, and we need to find the best path forward. So again, I don't speak for the whole town. I don't speak for the whole board. I speak for myself, but it's very encouraging to me to see that the other people that I get to work with are looking at, okay, yes, we're in some challenging situations. We have some challenging decisions to make, but we're not going to push it. We're not going to kick the can down the road and let the next, generation of boards deal with this. We're going to really take this and we're going to do the best we can with this. So it's not always easy, it's not always fun, but I'm very excited to see the work that people are putting in to really try and address a lot of these issues. So I know I can't give specific answers, but hopefully that is helpful in really getting this. And you're welcome, Sherelle. Communication is big. I tell people I want to be able to communicate and talk with you guys, so I appreciate every opportunity I do have to talk with you guys. So let's see where is going. So Old Town Street repair. So again, I know I've heard several people have come to me and talked about this. This is a great opportunity for you guys to hop on and to hear Bob and Vince go into detail about what each of those projects are. You do have the opportunity to actually go through the packet. As you can see, this is a 329 page packet. The fun things we get to do on the board, we get to go through those 329 pages, but to go over what's included in that. So then we do have a resolution for appointing a town clerk. So we just recently hired a new town clerk to help with handling and managing things. This is something I'm very excited about, just the work that she's been putting in to really help to make sure things are running smoothly, and just kind of cleaning up some areas where we've had challenges in the past has been incredibly valuable. I feel, one second, sorry guys. Move this over a little bit so my picture's not blocking this. And so I'm just very excited, but I think the board actually does have to officially appoint her. We've hired her and she's doing a great job already. We just have to have an official resolution because the board does appoint the town clerk. So that'll be that resolution. And then we do also have resolution regarding the amendment of the hours for outdoor watering. And this is again something that when we did put the watering restrictions in place, there was a lot of people brought things back to the Board of Trustees saying, hey, there's a lot of concerns we have regarding this. We as the board went back to the town and said, I for one pushed for this, but other trustees as well, and all agreed we want to have something officially in resolution in writing. And at that time, it was in such short notice that we weren't able to have something actually drafted to vote on at that point. But the idea here is we'll have that resolution that ideally will address a lot of those concerns that were out there, to find some opportunities for us to make exceptions or to work with people so we're not, losing brand new yards or things like that. So that will be the resolution, and you can actually walk through and go through that. And just understand too, when I don't go into tons of detail on this stuff, really the idea behind what I do here is I want to let you guys know what's coming up, what's on the agenda, because really where it's important for you guys to show up and to actually hear this is from the town staff and from the board members who are presenting at the board meeting. So it's really vital that you guys do come, because I want us to hear your thoughts. It's very helpful. I can speak again only for myself, but it's very helpful for me when I'm making a decision, when I hear that feedback or those thoughts from citizens about a specific issue. So it helps me to have a better perspective of something I may not have thought of, or I may not have realized that you bring to the table. And that really helps me to see, oh, okay, this is something that we can do better or improve on. So again, when I don't go into huge detail, I'm not going to do as good job as Brad and Bob and Vince and Tyler. They're going to do a way better job of presenting this because they know this stuff. They're dealing with it every day. So I want you guys to get that information from them. And then I also want to make sure that the entire Board of Trustees is able to hear you guys' thoughts and concerns, because it's very important that not just I understand what your concerns are, but they as well. So if you're ever wondering, like, why doesn't he go in more detail? That's the reason why. So those are the official resolutions. We do have the liquor board. My understanding is we are actually going to be meeting on Wednesday, the 15th, I think, to do this, because we actually have to be in person because it's considered quasi-judicial. But there is from what I understand, an extension for the Sol de Jalisco for their outdoor seating. But that does have to be done in an in-person meeting. So that will be, I don't know the correct word, but that will be moved forward or tabled until the following day, which would be Wednesday, when the board will actually meet in person so that we can approve that outdoor extension. Then from there, we will go back into reports. We will be getting a report from our town administrator in regards to the executive search firm for the town administrator. So our town is in the process. We just received bids. The Board of Trustees is currently going through the proposals of each of the bids that came in. I actually just not finished. I still want to do another go through, but I went through everything, got notes put down, so I'm going to be going through those again today and tomorrow some more before I turn that in, but that will be turned into the town administrator. We'll then facilitate some conversation with the board, and then my guess is that later in the month we'll actually be voting to approve a contract to one of the firms that did submit a proposal to do that search. So we have that, and then under staff communications, we are going to have an update on the bulk water station. I know that this is a question that has been brought up by multiple people to the board, but especially to myself over the last couple of weeks, are concerned with that being out of service for repairs and whether or not it's going to be reopened for the year. I did specifically request that this get put on the agenda. So you can see that is there under staff communications, that we will be getting an update to the board regarding the bulk water station. And we do also have the Larimer County Sheriff's report that we'll get that for the month of May. And then we'll have board reports where there'll be opportunities for any of the board members to share or have any discussion with the board for things that they'd like to discuss. So with that does kind of close out the agenda. And so again, as I mentioned, there's 329 pages in this agenda, so there's a lot of things in the packet to go through. The ones that I would really highlight for you guys is the utility rate study. Be familiar and understand with that. As I mentioned, this is something the board has been working on for the last, I would say, 4 months. I mean, prior to this board being seated, the previous board was working on this and going through this. And then ever since we got sworn into office, I think our second or third meeting into office, this was one of the items on the agenda. So this has been something we've been continuing to work through for multiple months and trying to find the right balance of again, dealing with the fact that our water fund has been losing money for multiple years, and just getting that in place to where getting it into a place where it needs to be and it can be sustainable, and so that we don't have ongoing issues. So again, I would definitely be up to speed on that and understand what's going on there, so you can give us feedback and thoughts of things that maybe we hadn't considered. So, and then Sherelle says, that's awesome. I know there are a lot of people waiting to hear about the water station. Yes, you're welcome, Sherelle. I specifically requested, I know a lot of people have made that request. I specifically requested this get put on the agenda for this meeting because I've met with many of those people that have had those concerns. Lyle Kent says, thank you. You're welcome, Lyle. I'm glad to help with that. At this moment, I have one more thing I do want to cover, and then I do want to open this up to you guys. So if you have any questions, if anything I haven't covered, please go ahead and throw those into chat. I know it was, I'm trying to get my day straight, I believe it was yesterday, Saturday. So yesterday there was a Back the Blue march to support our law enforcement that was here in Wellington. And my family and I were originally planning to go out with them until I had the genius of sitting in the wrong chair for work for the last 2 weeks, and I haven't been able to walk until today. So unfortunately, I was limited to going out to my yard and saying thank you and waving to them as they came past, but I wasn't able to actually join them. But I did want to thank them for just showing the support for our law enforcement. That's something I have a great relationship with our sheriff's deputies, as well as our sergeant who oversees our office here. And I am very grateful for the work that they do here in the town of Wellington. And it was very nice to see just the citizens wanting to make sure that we know that they know that we support them. As I also shared on my other show, I did also attend the Unity March that happened a month ago, I think it was now, and that was huge for me to see just people coming together and again working alongside the sheriff's department. And it's been exciting to see just the conversations that have been happening and really working with the law enforcement from both sides. And that's been really neat to see a part of that. And my hope is really that we as a community can work together, all of us. And I understand a lot of us have different perspectives. We have different viewpoints that we come from, and that's okay. And my really hope is that from all sides of it, whether you agree with this person, you agree with that person, that we can all agree that we live in a great community and we can all work together to really look towards what's the best things and what are the right things for our community. So did want to share that. And then from there, I do want to, if anyone does have any questions, please go ahead and throw those into the chat. I'd be happy to take a shot at answering that for you. If not, we'll wrap up here in just a minute. I will wait for Facebook because I know it does go slow. But I am looking forward to, as I said, I hope that you guys can join us this coming Tuesday. It will be at 6:30 p.m. is our board meeting. And as I mentioned earlier, it will be on Zoom. So you can log in just by clicking the link on the agenda, or you can also call in by phone, and then the meeting ID is there. And as I mentioned, definitely go through the packet. You can download that from the town website. And also, as always, I am really big on communication. So if you ever have questions, concerns, especially if you have concerns, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. My email is on the Town of Wellington website. My phone number, actually, I believe, is on my my trustee Facebook page as well. So you can feel free to give me a call, or you can send me an email, and I am happy also to meet with you as well. And I know that we're really working on communications. I personally am very excited that we are in the process of hiring a person strictly for communications for the town of Wellington. I think that's something that we have been lacking, and I think it will help a lot with making sure that we are getting information out to you, the citizens, in a timely manner. And I think that's something that's very important. So with that, it doesn't look like I have any questions. So with that, Cheryl says, have a great evening. You too, Cheryl. You and your family have a great evening. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend and a great week coming up. And I will look forward to seeing you, if not at the board meeting on Tuesday, I look forward to seeing you guys next Sunday evening. Have a great day.